Okay.
And it's time.
Maybe. Okay, got it. Okay, should be good almost.
Mhm.
And we're gonna go live now on Facebook. Yeah. And there we are. Awesome. All right. So we're gonna wait for a couple minutes, but technically we are live on Facebook,
Oh,
and
I
I
see
think
it.
on YouTube. So this is exciting.
Amazing.
This is a
Yes.
first for me to stream to two places at one time is pretty cool.
Oh,
Um,
wow. I'm happy to be part of your Inception double stream.
double entendre there,
Yeah.
Inception.
I'm gonna share it to my Facebook as well right now.
Okay, cool.
1 second. We're gonna just wait for some people to come
Yeah,
hang,
we'll
right?
jump on. Oh wow, people are jumping on, so it's good.
Okay. Hi, people.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce you because a
Okay.
lot of people watch this later on. Um, so I'm so honored to have the incredible, amazing virtuoso cellist Tina Guo on my channel tonight. And I'm going to have to actually read this because your credits are so insanely long that I could not even come close to memorize it. So Tina is a Grammy Award nominated and Brit Female Artist of the Year nominated musician. And she established an international career as a virtuoso electric and acoustic cellist, multi instrumentalist, composer, and entrepreneur. And you have heard her on recently on the soundtrack of Dune, and your latest solo album. How do I say it?
It's Dies Irae, the Day of Wrath.
Yes, yeah, E-Ray
Mhm,
was it that came out last year on
mhm,
Sony.
mhm,
You're a self-managed artist, which I definitely want to talk about,
mhm.
and you're passionate about investing, financial planning, self-actualization. You direct all and produce all your incredible videos, which if you haven't, definitely sign up for her YouTube channel and go look at her videos because they're just so beautifully done. And okay, what else? You consult creatives, and what what else? You're into growth, branding, building, and I don't know.
Yeah,
We're gonna go into
it's not
all
important.
the things you
It's just
are.
oh, and by the way, I wanted to add that a lot of my more recent videos, several of them have been directed by I've brought in other directors and people, so I just wanted to make that
Okay.
clear. However, for the first, I don't know, 50 videos or 100 videos
Yeah.
I did everything myself. But it's been a fun adventure.
Awesome, awesome.
Mhm.
And of course, for some new people on, Tina's played on so many Hans Zimmer soundtracks and other big major composer soundtracks. And I think the first time I got to work with you was with an artist, a pop artist named Cersina, and that track you played on actually really like kind of blew her up, which was amazing.
Oh.
And she's doing really great and amazing artist too. So, um, all right, well let's get into it a little bit. I think I'd love to talk a little bit about the music side and the business side of things. And so, coming from China and your parents being super strict, I know you've said this before, but tell me about the just the importance of having that really um, that dedication to practicing and the dedication to excellence. I think is what it is because I really see that in a lot of areas of what you're doing, not just your playing, which is incredible, but it seems like you're really committed to your business side and all those other areas that I think it's easy for us to kind of just push aside.
Thank you. Um, yeah, it really, I think that almost robotic way of working is definitely is a cultural, I think, tendency, not to overgeneralize about
Hmm.
Chinese culture, Asian culture, but there is always usually a little, at least some truth to generalizations. And so I definitely cannot take any credit for being raised in that way, which had a very big impact on how it shaped me, and how I was
Yeah.
groomed, basically. And I think it's very common across the board. Like when for my years that I was in the circus, I was in the Cirque du Soleil. I met a lot of, I mean, the world's top, acrobats, aerialists, contortionists. I mean, people that you're just like, how on earth did you even start doing this craft, and how did you get to such an advanced level?
Right.
And they all come from, for the most part, they all come from dynasties of families that have done this craft for hundreds of years,
Wow.
maybe even thousands. I mean, just a lifelong career circus people, but it's the same. So you're trained from the age of 2 or 3. You just start training. Your parents train you, and
Right.
that's basically what happened to me. I don't, as far as like, I think on the business side and the other areas, I think myself as a person, aside from how I was raised, I'm just very curious about growing in every direction, hopefully not horizontally, as I also love to eat a lot. So that's always a fight. But
Well,
um,
your dogs are named what? Pizza and Bagel.
pizza and
So
bagel, they're up in the bedroom because they get super excited anytime I get on, specifically a Zoom call, not Skype or a FaceTime. Like every time I'm
yeah,
on Zoom, they just start going crazy. So,
that's
um,
funny.
oh, Michael, you are frozen.
Am
Okay.
I? I'm not frozen here, at least on my feed. Are you Oh, I see you frozen now. Are we frozen?
Oh, you're moving again.
Yay.
Can you see or hear me?
I can see you. Yeah.
Okay,
If we
okay.
get
Oh,
unfrozen, if we totally freeze up, we'll just hop back on.
okay. Sorry, guys. So what was I going on about? Yeah, I think it's more of a pursuit of just expansion. And obviously, anything that we apply ourselves to, we can do. I'm a full believer in you can
Yeah.
really, if not exactly that thing, you can get very, very close to it, but you also have to put in I don't want to downplay it. You do have to put in a lot and sacrifice a lot. It's
Right.
like Oprah said, you can have everything, but not at the same time. And so now I'm 36. And for the first, my God, from when I started piano at age 4, something like that. And then cello at age 7. I moved to Los Angeles at 18, for school. And that's really when I think the work ethic and stuff really started, because I had to survive. It started out as a purely survival fueled thing where I
Right.
was literally like, I need to figure out how I'm going to buy groceries and pay my rent. And so from the age of 18 until, I would say, probably a couple years ago, until 33, 34, I was obsessively focused on work, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week for the most part.
Yeah.
And I can attest that is not always healthy. I think a balance needs to be found, which I'm doing right now. I'm a lot more relaxed, and I don't work as much. But I can only say that now because I've reached, a certain point in the
Yeah.
career. So, mhm.
One thing I notice is, and I tell students and stuff is, there's a baseline of ability that we need as musicians if you want to work. Like there's a
Mhm.
baseline you have to get to, and there's a level of excellence. But beyond that, I think there is a certain element that you have to maybe for some people it comes naturally. For some people, you have to kind of work on, and that is what makes you different than anybody else and what makes you you. I
Mhm.
feel like there's something that everybody has their own gifts and like what makes them special, and so like as a guy who teaches composers, it's not always the guy who has the most master level training,
Mhm.
and education, and knows the voicings of every, Stravinsky thing. And like, I get those people, but sometimes they're terrible composers because they don't, that what they're making is not really unique and creative to themselves. And I think one thing about you is you've really not only excelled at, your virtuosity, but you really have created something that is a unique brand for yourself. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about what your philosophy is about branding. And as a musician, if you were starting out, what are some of those things beyond, hey, I just got to be a good player,
Mhm.
that you should think about?
Yeah. For me, I think my self-marketing and branding happened by accident, by purely just being myself. And who is myself? I'm someone who's very open. And I've been told in the past that I'm too open, which also could be true, but I'm just generally very, I don't know. I have literally nothing to hide. Nothing makes me embarrassed or makes me feel
Hmm.
ashamed. And I think that is something because I've worked with a lot of clients. I've spoken with, a lot of young musicians, composers, and even people not who are not artists, who are, for business related things, and like fear, and obviously self-doubt. And it almost sounds a little cliche, oh, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. But so many people live every day, whether it's in their career or in life, so worried about what other people are going to say, what other people think. And of course, within reason, if you work within an
Hmm.
ecosystem, you have to be sensitive to the feelings of the people around you. But in general, if you're trying to achieve and to be and to break through and do something unique and different, you have to be okay with the fact that people are not going to like it. There will be, people are always afraid and dislike things that are different. Um, the same people who told me maybe 15 years ago that I was insane and crazy, and I'm going to ruin my career. I mean, I didn't even have a career to ruin, but you're going to ruin any chances of having a real career. No one's going to take you seriously. Like, you're too
Hmm.
excessive. You're too. Are the same people who turn around now asking me for consultation sessions and asking me
Right.
for advice. And I haven't changed, Michael. I'm the same person. So, oh no, I'm sorry. I hope I've changed. My God, I hope I've,
Yeah, no,
maturated,
I know what you mean, but
yeah,
you're
yeah.
still that, yeah, you're
So,
still you. Yeah.
yeah. And my point is, like, you have to be careful about who you listen to. Even people who are very well meaning, I think most
Mhm.
people are good, but you just have to be careful and really, really trust yourself. And if you have a curiosity, I think, about something, about, some type of music or genre or expression or a photo shoot or a video idea or whatever it is, just do it. I
Just
mean,
do it. Yeah.
literally, what's the worst that could happen? Unless you literally pass away. Other than that, everything can be fixed, and people are very concerned about themselves. And I think a lot of times too, I used to, after I really realized this, I think I became even more secure, in myself, because
Hmm.
of course, everybody, feels bad if you see a negative comment or you hear something or somebody gives you negative feedback. But in the end, people might talk for a little bit, but everyone's concerned about themselves. They're not concerned
Yeah.
about you. So I think after I realized that, I'm like, okay, everybody just does their own thing. And that is the most important thing, like, yes, training, virtuosity. I mean, I can't tell you how many thousands, I'm not exaggerating, by thousands of very talented, virtuistic, well-trained, well theorized, whatever, musicians there are. But that, and actually being able to create a monetizable career. I mean, that's very
Hmm.
specific, but I think that's a goal, right? To be able to make our craft a career. Those are two very, very different things that
Right.
there's a little bit of crossover, but it's like a Venn diagram of, it's a whole other circle there.
I think, yeah, for me this last year, well, last couple of years, I've just struggled with the haters, whether it be on YouTube
You have? Oh
or
no.
whatever. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's like something I've had to really get over. And
Mm.
people are like, "Hey, I really love what you do," but like, you don't want to put yourself out there as much. Like I just started my videos because
Mhm.
I was just bored in the studio and I just would jam
Mhm.
and turn on Facebook, you know,
Yeah,
and
I love your jam videos. So good.
thank you. Um, so that just kind of led to one thing, and now I'm more into education. But yeah, I've had to just, you know, that one comment. There'll be 100 great comments, and that one bad one makes you
Yeah.
go, ah, I don't want to. Yeah, you
Well,
know,
that's ingrained in our primal brains because of the negative, cognitive bias. Because evolution, like, through evolution, the people who weren't on the lookout for danger and tigers and
right?
lions, your DNA, it doesn't exist anymore because you're dead and you can't procreate. So now I think in general, like I think to understand like where that comes from, we're just naturally inclined through our DNA to really focus on the negative things. So it's not really our fault, but we almost have to like neuroplasticity and like literally reprogram our minds to not focus on it. But I know exactly what you mean. You can have 1,000 positive comments and then one negative
Yeah.
comment, and you're like, oh my
And you
god.
feel the need to respond and like
Yeah,
justify yourself, but then
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like been learning to just like go, okay, fine. And I think what the best thing somebody told me go, somebody gave me great advice, which was like, okay, go on your heroes page and
Hmm.
look down on it and see what it, and of course, you know, they have tons of people that are negative as well.
Sure,
So I
sure.
think just staying positive wherever you're at in your journey in music, you know, I think just like you said, you can get there if you're gonna be willing to put in the hard work, you
Hmm.
know, but staying positive, if you're an artist and creating art is really super important, I think,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, all right, well, how about let's go a little technical, I guess, for some of the people that are interested in your sound. So
Okay.
obviously you have your your natural cello,
Hmm.
acoustic cello, and then you have this amazing electric cello sound. Can you just tell me, like, give me your favorite way, like plugins on your cello, reverb, compressor, give me
Yeah,
that kind of
I will
dirty
make
stuff.
it very easy for you guys. If you want my exact sound, you can have it for free.
What?
Because I'm a big believer in that. But you do have to have from line 6 Helix.
Okay.
So live, I use the Helix LT, like it's slightly smaller than the full size pedal board. And then I work in Logic, and so I work in Helix Native. And there are each one of the sounds I've actually customized myself. And a lot of them, they were actually created for soundtracks, for things that I was
Yeah.
working on. So, I just noodle around. I don't even know what I'm doing. I mean, people ask me technical questions. And I'm like, I literally don't know what I'm doing. I'm
You just
just,
find what you
you just,
like.
it's like a spiritual, it's like a feeling, right?
Right.
And then I'm like, oh shit, that sounds, you know, really
Really
evil.
good.
Okay, got it. And then I save it. And so what I did was, if you go on YouTube and you look up the Helix Hour with my name, that's Tina
Okay.
Guo. There is a download link to my sounds, all of the sound, and it's actually pretty basic. I don't have. I think I've become a minimalist. Well, in certain ways and a maximalist in others, but a minimalist over the years, because in my early years I was fully analog. I had a giant, Engel like Powerball, amp that I needed to hire two people to just carry for me, for gigs,
Yeah.
a pedal board that I couldn't even lift myself, so many pedals. And honestly, Michael, I didn't even use like 80% of them. It was just to like show off. I'm like, oh, look at all my pedals, right?
That's like all
Um,
these keyboards. Like how many of these keyboards I really dig into, it's like mostly I'm using plugins, but there are
yeah,
like one sound in each one of these keyboards that I
of
will
course.
never, get rid
Yeah,
of.
yeah. So like some years ago, I actually got rid of all of my pedals. Except I'm looking here, but you can't see it. There's a very large case, and I kept one pedal. It was my first pedal gifted to me from my friend Johnny from Coffin Case. So they make those coffin shaped
Yeah.
cases for guitars, and they also had pedal boards and a few pedals. So it was called a blood drive. So it was a very heavy distortion drive, shaped
Yeah.
like a coffin, which I love, and that I keep in my case, and it still works. I mean, I've had it for 13, 14 years.
I
So
remember the
I
Coffin Case booth at NAMM show all those years. It's always
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, in the fashion show.
Yeah.
And so I'm fully digital now. And that is one thing that I do because, when people say, oh, your sound, if you listen carefully, I don't actually have a sound because literally for every track, it's slightly different. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a strange person. If I was logical and wanted to save myself time, I would just have like a template and then have my sounds, but I like
But
to
you're
like
always tweaking. You're always being creative with it.
I'm always
Yeah.
tweaking a little bit. But the ones that I generally work from, and obviously the sounds that I use live, those are pretty much set. Those are the ones that I provided through the Helix Hour. So
Mhm.
whoever happens to have a Helix can have my sounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people jumping on that. Um, let's so I'm a big fan of Hans Zimmer. So
Mhm.
I would you have played on so many of those soundtracks. And what do you as far as being an artist and somebody who has her own voice, and a guy like Hans Zimmer comes along and says, hey, I want you to play on my score. What's that like? Like, is that a creative back and forth with someone like that, or what's it like working with him on that level?
Yeah, I think everyone that Hans collaborates with and works with will say the same thing. My most favorite thing about working with Hans is the freedom that he
Really?
gives
Yeah.
us, right? And so Hans, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're watching this later, you're like, what are you talking about? But no, I really feel like he brings people in
Hmm.
for who they are. So it's not, oh, I need a cello player who plays electric cello. It's Tina, that's the
That's the
energy that
vibe.
she gives. I want her, he always tells me, be yourself, just do you. Um, of course, from within the context, but it's always such an adventure and so fun and so different. I mean, every score, all the way from Sherlock Holmes, back in God, what was that, 2010?
Hmm.
The first project that we worked on together, maybe 2009. I'm not sure. Up until the most recent, Dune, that just came out.
Yeah.
It has always felt supremely different every time, and always very fun to work on creatively, and yeah, a lot of freedom. And for Dune also, I created all new sounds specifically for that soundtrack, for because we're trying to create these otherworldly alien tonalities, and that's
Right.
just an incredible thing. And I have worked with other composers who do give freedom, but Hans just does it in a way that's and he's such a
Well,
genius producer. Like he's
I
able, I
think,
think, to pull
yeah,
out,
yeah. I think one of the things I was gonna say is like Hans is like, I think every good composer, like modern composer especially, is
Mhm.
like 100% composer, 100% producer. It's
Yeah.
like, the modern score is like just creating something that we haven't heard before,
Mhm.
and I think that's what makes Hans such a genius, is he's able to kind of reinvent himself on things. And I think you've done that a lot on a lot of your videos and stuff. You kind of
Mhm.
reinvent yourself every time, and it's so cool to watch.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
try.
you do.
Mhm.
So who inspires you? Who are the musicians? And it doesn't even have to be a musician.
Yeah. Well, as a classical cellist, I think my biggest inspiration growing up, because that was the only music that I was exposed to until almost 18, was Jacqueline Dupre. And
Hmm.
sorry, it's Alexa. Alexa, stop. Oh my God. Sorry, my whole house is like
I love.
automated. And sometimes she just starts talking
I know
randomly.
mine does too.
It's like,
I can't even say it right now because we call her A.
oh. um, and what were we saying? I'm sorry, before she
Oh
rudely
yeah, like who
interrupted us.
inspires you? Who?
Oh yes, Jacqueline Dupre, and the first bands that I heard, that opened my eyes, my third eye, to music outside of the classical world. Marilyn Manson,
Hmm.
love. Guns N' Roses, Slash really inspired me a lot. And I thought, God, I wish I played the guitar. Like, I want to do that. Like, how do I do that? And
Yeah.
eventually I figured out a way to do my own version of that. But that was a very early seed that was planted. Apocalyptica, the original godfathers of cello metal, I Bow
Yeah.
Down, and System of a Down.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. That was playing on the radio all the time. I think when I was in middle school, that was the era, that System of a Down came out. So I think those were really the foundations of maybe my musical taste.
Right.
And then currently my favorite band is Rammstein, which is an industrial metal band from
Yeah.
Germany. So yeah.
That's cool. It's so weird. Like it seems like you almost have to split you have your kind of classical side and the metal side, but for you, the metal is like really where your creative flow is, right? Or does it matter?
I wouldn't even say that. I think, I mean, music and different kinds of music. The reason why I love soundtrack music, what we do so much, is that there is no genre. I mean, it's just
Right.
whatever fits picture, or whatever we're scoring. And I like to call myself genre fluid. Not gender fluid, but
Right.
sometimes gender fluid, but genre fluid for the most part. So I still love European art music, aka classical music based sounds. I love that. I love new age music. I have an album out with Peter Cater, who's an incredible, multi Grammy award winning new age piano player.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've done, forays into metal, which I love, industrial music, epic music, soundtrack music. So basically everything except for polka. And I'm not very established in country music or jazz. I don't quite, it's not really my thing, but everything
Yeah.
else. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of, I think, even the term genre. I think just like different languages are sometimes a little bit more adept at expressing certain things. It's the same thing with
Right.
different types of music. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I mean, you have traveled way more than I have as a musician,
Mhm.
but the traveling I have done, when you get outside of the United States, I think it's so cool to really experience the music in other cultures authentically, and really, like, I remember being like in North Africa and just hearing some stuff that I'm like, what am I listening to? Like at a festival, or like where the whole town shuts down and there's a like a giant party, but they have their own kind of music and festivals, and I think we miss some of that kind of celebration in music because it's so closed off here in the United States a little bit, and how does that have you experienced that traveling so much where you get to really experience somebody in another culture?
What's funny? Well, firstly, yes, when I'm touring, there's honestly so little time to just barely, sleep and function and do the
Right.
shows. So there really hasn't been a lot of time to go out and explore and hear local music, which is obviously a travesty, that needs to be worked on. But with COVID right now, that's also not possible.
Yeah.
However, when you were just talking about that, I actually have to say, in 2019, I had a year tour. It wasn't all year, but I visited. I believe it was four locations. It was during my partnership with the Ritz-Carlton hotel group. And so I was a composer and I was writing themes for each of these destinations. And the whole purpose of this, and these were all domestic, and then one location in Canada, in Toronto, to really experience. I mean, an entire week was focused on for me to gather inspiration and to experience the local music of that city. And I had not that I had no idea. I mean, I had a general idea of like maybe the musical culture in each of these cities, but New Orleans, obviously, very, very strong musical language there.
Yeah.
In Toronto, my favorite was actually Kapalua in Hawaii, because
Mm.
a lot of Polynesian influenced, tribal
Yeah.
influenced music. For me, I get very activated in all of my chakras, from anything tribal and ethnic.
Hmm.
And I did a collaboration with this fire breather, and I guess he was just like a drummer. I mean, and just yelling things and drumming, and it was completely improvised. And so actually during that tour, during that experience, I really was able to do what you're talking about. But because the whole purpose of those trips was to experience, music and culture in these little micro cities. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember I think I was in, it was either Portugal or Spain, and they the southern region, and they had a festival. It was called the Festival of the Moors and the Saints, and the whole city, like based on your genealogy, was split up into what they called clubs, and
Mhm.
we would see this incredible festival where the whole town would come to the streets, and they would be playing, every like club or group in the town would have their own music. And so after this incredible costume festival, they would all have their own parties in all over the city, and you could go from one to the next and just experience the history in that place. And it just like blew my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, of course, I've heard a lot of different musicians and types of music being played. For myself personally, what activates me is just anything that makes me feel something that's
Mm,
visceral. It's not intellectual. I mean, there was a period where I was really obsessed with like shredders, and I still love it. It's very technically amazing. I would go to jam sessions and watch people play at 200 BPM, 30-second notes. And
right.
I'm like, like the only girl there is all dudes, like just shredding. I'm like, oh my God. I used to really be into that, but like, I think now it's just, it doesn't even matter what they're doing or how good they are technically, as musicians ourselves or not. It's just whatever makes you feel something, either here or,
Yeah,
there
for
or
sure.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And I love that music, no matter where you are, no matter how trained you are or not trained, it has the capacity and the ability to connect people in that way. Even if you don't speak, the language, you can jam with
Right.
somebody and not even know, play the same type of music, and it doesn't matter,
Yeah,
and I love
music
that.
definitely is it transcends
Mhm.
language and country and all that stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
You mentioned the Ritz-Carlton, and the branding, and that kind of makes a nice little transition to a little bit of the business side.
Sure.
Um, so like, for me, I need other people giving me input
Mhm.
on my business thing. I think I've grown a lot, but how did you learn to be like this self-sufficient business person? And the branding thing, like, how do you even think to do that? And where do these opportunities kind of present themselves?
Yeah. So again, I think initially it developed just from pure necessity. I think when there's a fire under your ass because you literally have no other choice, that
Hmm.
that really is a good motivator. I think sometimes people are too comfortable, and it might not be their fault. Maybe they have families that are supportive, and I know that sounds really maybe weird to say, oh, a supportive family is, but sometimes if you know that if you mess up or if it doesn't work out, you'll be safe. I didn't have that luxury, which turned
Right.
out to be a blessing. So it started from that. And a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error, and also self-education. I'm so passionate about that. And if you can't afford, a mentor for, consultation sessions, or you can't afford books or whatever it is, because I was at that point, we have
Hmm.
the internet. It's such a huge blessing that it is literally a library of all the knowledge that humankind has ever discovered and is discovering in real time. And so I really sometimes, I don't know, I just feel like it's an excuse, for people to say, like, if, oh, I don't have the resources, to learn certain things. You can learn
Hmm.
anything. So I read not every self-help book out there, a business book, but obsessively. That's all I did even now. And despite the fact that my life coach, I have a life coach, is telling me, Tina, you're too excessive in this productivity and, wealth building and that stuff. It's like to an unhealthy extent, which I agree.
Hmm.
So I'm doing the opposite. And she's like, don't read any self-help books. I'm totally listening to an Audible self-help book today. So sorry. But I think, balance and everything. But if you're starting out and you're curious about, learning about what the music business, or I mean, literally anything, I think just self-education, reading articles, watching videos, maybe like this, if this is of any help, for anyone later.
Yeah.
There's just so much free content out there. And then also you just have to do it, because it's one thing to logically understand something. It's completely different to go out there and just put yourself out there, fall flat on your face, embarrass yourself, make mistakes. That's the only way that you learn. And I've done all of those things, many times.
Yeah.
And I think what separates certain types of people is just not that I don't get embarrassed, because I mentioned earlier, oh, nothing embarrasses me. Of course, we all have these human emotions, but it doesn't matter. Like if you're, I think, who was it that said this? If your why is strong enough, the how will just, it won't even be, and you literally will be willing to do
You'll
anything.
figure out it. Yeah.
You-
A
You'll,
way.
you'll, you'll, you will figure it out, so that there's no excuses. I don't look kindly upon, I think, people who create excuses in their minds and then become victims, so.
I think being a
Mhm.
lifetime learner is such an important thing.
Mhm.
I feel like the most creative and the people at the top of their game, like the more you learn, the more you realize you have more to learn. Like there's so much more you could learn, you know? Whereas like I remember one kid came up to me and we were talking about just jazz piano, right? And here I've been doing it for quite a while. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I took that last semester in college. I'm good." And it's like, okay, like no, it's like if you really dive into something, you really have to just put your heart and soul into learning. And I think not making learning your biggest or not making like the financial reward initially your biggest reward, make the learning your biggest reward. And like when I learn something new or hear something and I can be, my ability has risen to another level, or I had a breakthrough in the way I hear things or whatever, that's like really exciting for me.
Mhm.
Of course, yeah, I want to be able to, monetize, my gifts for sure.
Mhm.
But you're right. I mean, I think you can do anything you put your mind to. I think what was it? What was it? Almost 2 years ago, I had cancer, and
Mhm.
I went through that, and I went back to school, and this was during COVID,
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
I so I had lost like most of my gigs because there was no gigs going on, right?
Mhm.
So I went back to school for coding, which I discovered I really hated. and but I was like, hey, I'm gonna learn something new. I'm gonna like use this time like and make a negative a positive.
Mhm.
And so after that, I started my own, film scoring course, and from learning that is enabled me to create my own web development stuff and being able to do that without having to call on somebody else to do it, which has been really great. So
That's
so
amazing.
yeah, you can learn something, you can get to that level. You just have to give yourself the time and the dedication.
Wow. Well, that just shows what kind of person you are. That's incredible, because I mean, having cancer, that's not a small thing, and to take that
Yeah,
and to
I'm very
grow. And
thankful I got through that.
yeah, yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And like what you were also saying about branding. So to be completely honest, the way that our world is, we're all plugged in. Everybody has access to the incredible internet, which makes so many things possible, like this right now, us
Hmm.
talking, from Vegas to Nashville. Um, but it also, at the same time, it's great, but it also makes it a little bit more difficult to make yourself stand out, and I
Right.
and I do realize that when I started, I mean, obviously there was internet, and I always say I built my entire career on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook first. There wasn't even Instagram yet,
Right.
and so it's a little bit more difficult now, but I don't think, because I know a lot of people who have built extremely viable careers via the internet, who are not in
Right.
like, the real physical world musicians, but have incredible careers all purely based online that have then crossed over into, real life. And branding is so important. And I think a lot of musicians that are over trained, who have so much education, on a technical level, on a theoretical level, again, like what I said earlier, being passionate, being a musician, being passionate about music, that's one thing. That's a craft. That's an art. Making
Mhm.
money is a
That's a
different
different.
craft and
Yeah.
art. They are not related. However, to make it as a musician, I think, especially now, you have to be able to, incorporate the other side, because until you get big enough where it would make sense for, maybe a manager or agent, if that's what you want to do, to be able to come and help you, no one's going to jump on the bandwagon until it's already rolling down the hill and, like,
Until
the
there's
wheels
money
are
for them
flying
to
off.
make. Yeah.
Of course. Like, I mean, that only makes sense. Why would, who wants 20% of $0, So,
Right.
and so you have to. And I think for myself, and I feel like I actually realized it, not too late, because it's never too late. The timing's always perfect for everything. But I do feel like if I had even realized it myself a little bit earlier, obviously more things would have happened. But I was resistant to it for a while in the beginning, because I wanted to be a heavy metal electric cello player. That's such a, very specific thing again. And, some people had told me, oh, you should do some covers. I'm like, no, covers. I'm a
You're
real
an
musician.
artiste.
I'm an artiste. And then, ironically, every classical musician is a cover artist, because we're all playing the same concertos and classical pieces. So it didn't
Right.
quite
That
didn't
is
quite
true.
connect that one. Yeah, we're all cover artists, but yeah, and I just refused to do it for so long. But what my point is, you have to think, in in a different way. You can't think selfishly. You can't think, oh, well, this is my art, I want people to like what I do. Oh, why don't they like it? It's not about you. When
Right.
we're, musicians and artists, and we're connecting with people, if no one is connecting with what you're doing, you can do what you want, for yourself. But if your
Sure.
purpose is to actually have a
To
career from it,
monetize it.
there's
Hmm.
something wrong. I mean, if every person, or you just have, no matter what you do, no one's into what you're doing, you have to change what you're doing, or at least change the method.
And
Um,
that's across the board. Any business on the planet is
yeah,
like, if your product
absolutely.
is
Hmm.
not selling,
Right.
there's probably something wrong with your product. There's not interest in it.
Yeah, or it's just the wrong timing, the wrong demographic, that's
Yeah.
currently living on planet Earth. But I think, for one of the things that I have recommended a lot to musicians who are maybe just starting out, and they're wondering, how do I build a brand? How do I build a brand? Well, you have images. I mean, it's wonderful. You can literally create, this character of who you are, or
Hmm.
as an artist. So you put out images, you put out videos. I mean, that's such an incredible way for everybody, the whole world potentially, to see what you do. And you have to do it consistently. And when I say this, and I start saying, only the few first steps, people go, oh God, it's like, oh, it's so much, like,
I
oh, this
know.
sucks, I want to just play
Especially
music,
if you're an
like,
introvert. I think,
yeah.
if you're really introverted, it's really hard to put yourself out there.
I'm believe it or not, I'm also an introvert. I think I've trained myself now. The last time I took my personality test, I'm 51% extrovert, 49% introvert. So I've like just crossed the line. But I'm not actually someone who gets fueled by too much stimulation from large crowds of people. I actually don't
Hmm.
like it. But I've trained myself, because if you don't, and also if you think about it, doing what we do now, specifically online, in the last couple of years, but even before that, it's actually perfect for an introvert, because you're by yourself in your studio or in your house
Right.
filming videos of yourself, creating music. It's actually a very introverted activity. And that's the best way to brand yourself, and, study all these things. Like, I'm sure everyone's heard about the hashtags, and you have to, update yourself on a constant basis, or at least weekly basis, on what is currently trending, what the different social media platforms are pushing. For example, on Instagram, they're really pushing their reels. They're even offering to pay, people, content creators like myself. I'm getting
Hmm.
paid to make reels, because they're really pushing that, and it's optimized so more people will see. Because so many people complain about, oh, like, people don't see everything that I post on Facebook because of the algorithm.
Yeah.
Dudes, this happened 10 years ago. You're still complaining about what happened 10 years ago. You got to get on, you got to move
Yeah. You
forward,
gotta move
So
forward. I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And
And I,
my first
yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
video had 125,000 views, which I was like,
Mhm. That's
what, on
amazing.
Facebook, right? Which was
Yeah, yeah,
insane.
yeah.
And now it's like it's so hard to get over that algorithm,
It's
but
really hard. Yeah.
YouTube is a lot, it seems like it's a better platform to try and do that.
Yeah, it is. And I really should take my own advice because I feel like I don't make enough reels, but reels are very short form, 30 to 60 seconds, something that's like
Right.
quick, snappy to try to get people's attention because everybody has such short attention spans now. And unfortunately, you have to sell into the system in order to break through the system. So you have to understand what
Yeah.
people are used to. You have to do it. And then once you build enough of a name for yourself, then you can do whatever the F you want, but you have to be able to, you can't fight against the system before you're even in the
Right.
system. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, sure.
mhm.
Also, let me just say, for those who are watching, there are quite a few of you. If you do have questions, just throw it in the comments. I'll try and get to those as we close this up in a little bit. And
Okay.
I'm sure everybody's like, "Oh, she's awesome. She's the best." Da 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 da. Metal Guo, So that's so cool.
Make sure you
Um,
notice the negative comment. Remember negative bias. I want to know.
there's no negative.
No? Okay.
No, it's all positive here.
Okay.
Um, so let's talk real quick about multiple streams of income.
Mhm.
We mentioned it. You have a sample library with output, and I love it, by the way.
Cinesamples.
Oh,
Thank you. Cinesample.
Cinesamples.
Yeah,
Well, you did
Cinesamples.
something with output, I thought, or
I think we did an interview series. I used to use their desk, the platform
okay.
desk. I now I have like a desk that goes up and down. Sorry,
Oh,
output, but
okay.
I still love the desk. No, so it's actually through Cinesamples. There's two
Cinesamples.
volumes. Yeah,
Okay.
volumes 1 and 2. I call her Robo Guo, so literally the robot version of me. So that that's one thing. But yes, you have to really have multiple sources of income, especially as a creative, because look what the last couple of years have shown us, right? So all touring
Right.
stopped. For myself, obviously, I do session work. I write music. I like licensing stuff. Like licensing libraries. I did 3 albums in 2020. For my own commercial releases, for
Hmm.
licensing albums, and
Are
then
you talking about with a like a company that just tries to license your music, or
yeah,
yeah?
I did an
Okay.
album through Extreme Music with my
Okay, through
friend
Extreme.
Frank
Okay.
Klepacki. Yes, incredible. And I released so this was in 2020, my solo album Dies Irae, and then with a pianist friend, a holiday album. So just putting out multiple multiple things. And aside from actually recording music, I really always tell people, if you can, no matter what you do, invest. Start investing. I started off $5 a month. That's how much I put into like a general stock market portfolio.
Hmm.
And this was many many years ago. And that I never sell. I only buy. And when things go down, I buy more, right? So I just keep
Right.
buying, 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 and then it grows and it grows, and you just kind of leave it there. And that is a really good, I think, safety. Safety for myself because
Right.
I don't know, maybe it's because of my own childhood trauma or like just the stuff that I carry with me from my experiences. I have a lot of trouble feeling secure. So it's like
Mhm.
no matter, I always feel afraid that I'll be, I won't have
I
work, I'll
think
be
music
struggling.
in general, it's like
Yeah, yeah,
you
it's
can have an
mm.
amazing month, and the next month can be like
you
not so
you
great,
just
and
you
you
just
just
don't
never
know
know.
what's yeah you just
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen, and so I think that having something outside of music or multiple things outside of music,
Hmm.
so I've invested in a lot of stocks, primarily real estate investment trusts, and for people, and all of these things I learned about literally just reading articles online, watching free YouTube videos,
Right.
and then just some other random stuff. But I think mostly if people can look into starting to invest a little bit, that would be great. And then I have a Patreon account, with amazing supporters. And so that brings in
Yeah.
income, merchandise store, just a lot of like little random deals here and there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I thought about doing a Patreon, but I don't know. It's all I just never like learned about it, but I know some people are doing it, but especially for
Yeah.
people that are content creators or people that do
Right.
videos, for sure. I
Yeah.
think too, the for the composers that are watching, even doing stuff. creating content for music libraries and for sync, that for me has been the gift that keeps on giving, because I've done it for so long, whether I created it on my own for my own company, or for getting hired and doing it for other companies. Every month, there's probably 500 to 1,000 pieces of music that are getting played on TV in my catalog, and that's just from so many years of doing music library. But the great thing about that is that that's just going to keep creating it's kind of a safety net a little bit for you,
Mhm.
if things are going slow, at least for me. And so yeah, my advice definitely for composers is I know we all want that big epic film score, do the next Avengers movie, whatever. That would be amazing. But for a working composer, that there's so many avenues. If you think of every single business on the planet needs music, almost every month, when in their videos, in their internal company things, on advertising. So there's constantly needed new music, and I think I would encourage composers that yes, there are a lot of us composers out there, but there's a lot of opportunity for new people as well. Don't think that there's not an opportunity, because I don't have your voice. You don't, you may want to learn something about my voice, but at the end of the day, it's what your voice is that's going to get you hired, and I think,
Mhm.
you would probably agree with that.
Yeah, and I was going to add, going back to the branding, the stronger your brand, because that's what people want now is the brand, right?
Hmm.
Just like House of Gucci, House of Valentino, these big, I mean, I know I'm talking about fashion, but these brands, once your brand is strong enough, other opportunities will come that might have to do with music or have nothing to do with music. So like the stronger you can create your that you can bring your social media platform to, bringing up Instagram as an example.
Hmm.
I've been offered, and I've done, especially during COVID the first year, a lot of partnerships with, I mean, even mattress companies, and like it's like, wait, what? And but they pay, so depending on how many followers you have, anywhere
Yeah.
from $1,000 to $10,000 for a single Instagram post. So when you're thinking about, oh, like, oh God, it's so much work to, like, yes, but there's a reason. There's a reason
Right.
behind this. You're building, not only are you connecting with people who care about you and care about what you do, and building an emotional attachment with people,
Yeah.
because that's what it is to connect with, I think, fans or followers, but you're also building a platform for other opportunities to come. And like you said, there's, just like every company needs music. I mean, there are so many endless opportunities right now, also in the metaverse, with this whole with NFTs. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
explosion of
And that's a
opportunity.
whole
Yeah.
nother thing that just kind of blows
Mhm.
my mind. I've
Yeah.
having to have some of those conversations to even wrap
Mhm.
my head around what that means.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're farther down the road with that than I am, but I think just like you said, opening up your mind to not saying, I think everybody wants to be John Williams when they first start to be a composer,
Mhm.
but a lot of directors are not looking for to be John Williams. They want the guy who's the rap guy, who can integrate emotional music in with that, and that's going to get you further faster, by using your skill set,
Mhm.
whatever. Like you said, that's your brand. You have an audio brand. It's not
Mhm.
just your looks.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, One question I have to ask, because my daughter Eden, she's watching, and
Hi, Eden.
I said, okay, yeah, I want you to come up with a good question for Tina. And I thought she came up with a pretty good one. And that would be, and I had to think about it myself. What would you do if you didn't do music? What? So
Oh,
that's a tough question.
I mean, no, I mean, there's actually so many exciting things that I'm so passionate about. I think up until 2 years ago, I would have said maybe music management, or some type of like, entrepreneurial business controlling things, telling people what to do. I do like that stuff, production.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like, suddenly in the last couple of years, I love interior design. God, I love to cook and to bake and to eat. And like, maybe I'm actually starting a food vlog with my friend Lenny, that's coming
All
out this
right.
summer. So perhaps I would be a professional food taster. I don't know. Or like sometimes I think like, after having this experience of being domesticated and I, I love it. It's not that I don't want to travel anymore, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
publicly I've announced I am semi-retired from touring. I've turned down almost every offer. I'm going with Hans on this next tour because it's Hans and because it's amazing music and related directly to soundtrack stuff, which
Right.
I'm very deeply in. But I don't know, if I didn't do music, I think I would like maybe even have a family, maybe be like super, Martha Stewart style, mom. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely, I think, find excitement in a lot of things. And I personally have not experienced so many facets of life because of how much I've given obsessively to the cello, and to,
Yeah.
building my brand, which I don't regret at all. I love and I appreciate, but um, I don't know. I'd actually be excited. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, I think
That's
there's a lot
amazing.
of, yeah, a lot of things I could explore,
I think composing for me was a secondary thing.
Yeah.
I was going to be, I wanted to be like the best jazz piano player. I was practicing 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
through school, and even had a record deal and stuff. And but you know what, traveling and doing that all the time was like, I just got tired of it, and so I wanted to be at home, and I wanted to figure a new, a way to make money being in one place. And so film scoring, I just
Mhm.
loved the cinematic music. I thought it was so cool. So I went back to school, to UCLA, and studied film scoring, and
Mhm.
then got hired right out of school to score the Power Rangers TV show, which
Oh, amazing.
was just really cool. And like I was really green and learning, but then they hired me to be a staff composer for Fox TV, and that was like, so that was like that was just a shift in my thinking, I think. And the point of it is that, like, it's not always like that a plan we go to that ends up like fulfilling you and helping you. So I really feel blessed to have gone through what I went through to end up where I am. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, well, can you give, maybe give your social information? We're about to wrap it up here. I want to respect
Sure.
your time here,
Yeah,
and
no worries.
thank you so much for doing this. So many people have said, "Oh, this is amazing, best conversation I've heard in a long time." So
Oh, thank you guys.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You can find me Tina Guo, Guo, everywhere. It's just at Tina Guo across the board.
yeah,
Years ago, I went back because oh my God, that's a branding mistake. You guys do not do that. Where I used like Tina Guo cello, Tina Guo music, Tina Guo official on all my different socials. And it was a nightmare trying to, consolidate. So if you're starting now, use the same tag for every channel if you can.
hmm
And then my website is just tinaguo.com. And that's it. If you Google my name, I'm sure all kinds of like
you will,
random
yeah,
stuff will come up.
definitely go check out her YouTube. It's incredible. And
Thank you.
yeah, just so honored to have you. And it's been a really cool and inspiring. I feel like I need to reach out to people who inspire me to keep me moving to the next level. That's just so important. We need each other to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in film scoring at all, I do have a film scoring program called filmscoreseminar.com, and where we, no matter what level you're at, we teach film scoring, and you actually have 10 projects to score, and you can show your clients. And so it's a really cool program. Had to throw that in there.
That's awesome.
But thank you so much, and I wish you the best on tour.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All
All
right,
right.
Tina, take care.